the chastening rod, felt in the days when hope unborn had died, yet with a steady beat have not our weary feet come to the place for which our Father sighed. We have come over a way that with tears has been watered. We have come treading our path through the blood of the slaughtered. Out from the gloomy past, till now we stand at last, where the white gleam of our bright star is cast. God of our weary years, God of our silent tears, thou who hast brought us thus far on the way, thou who hast by thy might led us into the light, keep us forever in the path we pray. Lest our feet stray from the places, our God, where we met thee, lest our hearts, drunk with the wine of the world, we forget thee. Shadowed beneath thy hand, may we forever stand, true to our God, true to our native land.
Good afternoon. My name is Jonathan L. Walton. I am the Plummer Professor of Christian Morals and the Pusey Minister in the Memorial Church of Harvard University. And I would like to welcome you to this wonderful celebration. On behalf of President Drew Gilpin Faust, Mr. Glenn Hutchins, and Professor Henry Louis Gates Jr., it is such an honor to welcome these 2017 Du Bois medalists on this afternoon. At this time, as we begin this wonderful service, we want to both appeal to and affirm a collective spirit of excellence in the arts, education, and all fields of human endeavor by hearing the words of William Edward Burghardt Du Bois. Please, if you will, join me in a posture of prayer, meditation, and/or reflection. We ask you to bless all schools and forward the great work of education for which we all stand, O God. Arouse within us and within our land a deep realization of the seriousness of our task. Give us the grace to realize that education is not simply doing the things we like, studying the tasks that appeal to us, or wandering aimlessly in a world of thought. But rather, education is the unpleasant task. It's the hard lesson in the bitter experiences that often leads to knowledge, to power, and to a greater good. Help us realize, O God, how heavy is our responsibility and how great the cost. For the school of today is the world of tomorrow. Help us to seek thy truth, as it is the truth that makes us free. And this is why we linger here to learn. W.E.B. Du Bois. May we all say together, amen.
My name is Glenn Hutchins, and I'd like to welcome you to the 5th Annual Hutchins Center Honors. Over the past 4 years, we've awarded 30 W.E.B. Du Bois medals to a dazzling array of artists, writers, musicians, business leaders, activists, and public servants. This afternoon, we're thrilled to add 8 more names to that list, and we're thrilled to be honored by their presence. Thank you. Before we get started, I want to thank some special people who are participating in this ceremony, and I'll just thank you for being here. Our spiritual leader, the Reverend Walton, the divine voices of the Kuumba singers, 2 distinguished scholars who will come to this stage to offer readings from W.E.B. Du Bois, the legendary William Julius, I get to call him Bill Wilson, and the irreplaceable Larry Bobo. We also have with us today the members of the Harvard men's 5-time Ivy League champion Harvard men's basketball team, together with their coach, Tommy Amaker. We're counting on you to make it number 6 this year, Tommy. Today's honorees include a visual artist whose work offers searing insights into race, gender, sexuality, violence, and identity, Carol Walker, whose award will be presented by Martha Tedeschi, the director of the Harvard Art Museums. We have a business leader who has been instrumental over decades in creating the modern technology economy, John Thompson, the chairman of the board of Microsoft, whose award will be presented by Dean Smith, an engineer, but also the Dean of Faculty of Arts and Sciences. A political activist and analyst, and proud daughter of New Orleans, who has labored all of her career in the public interest, Donna Brazile, whose award will be presented by Doug Elmendorf, the Dean of the Kennedy School. We have a librarian who runs one of the few libraries in the world who runs one of the few libraries in the world bigger than Widener. Carla Hayden from the Library of Congress, whose award will be presented by Sarah Thomas, the university librarian. As a little side note to this event today, a member of the Harvard Corporation, David Rubenstein, and I were fighting over who was going to have Carla Hayden in their presence today, and I won. We have a philanthropist who is transforming one of the world's largest and most prestigious foundations to focus on the vitally important subject of inequality, Darren Walker, whose award will be presented by President Faust. A film director who's been described as, quote, an undeterred catalyst for a black film renaissance in the making. There you go. Quiet, quiet. Skip's getting jealous. Ava and I were reminiscing. We had the distinct privilege and lifelong memory of standing in the Lincoln bedroom in the White House with President Obama, who read to us the Gettysburg Address written from Lincoln's hand. It was an extraordinary day, wasn't it? Yeah. Her award will be presented by Diane Paulus, the Tony Award-winning artistic director of the American Repertory Theater here at Harvard. And the next person's name is, I think it's Todd Smith. He's a path-breaking musician, actor, author, and entrepreneur, right? From Queens, New York. LL Cool J. Or as my children told me today, ladies love Cool James. His award will be presented by my dear friend, Marcyliena Morgan, the creator and director of the Hip Hop Archive and Research Institute at Harvard. You see only 7 honorees on the stage today because one of our honorees, Jennifer Oppenheimer, passed away earlier this year, far too young. You will hear more about her accomplishments and her spirit later in the program, but I'd just like to say now that her life's work was in the service of making the lives of individuals, institutions, and even the entire continent of Africa a better, more productive, and more rewarding place. She is here in spirit and in our hearts today. Her award will be presented by Emmanuel Akyeampong, who has, how'd I do? That was pretty good, huh? Who will, we were practicing it backstage, who has done more than anything to anyone in the university to build the Center for African American Studies here at Harvard. The award will be received by Jennifer's husband, who also brought their daughter Isabel with them today, and thank you both for joining us. I'd like to thank especially President Faust and Dean Michael Smith, whose presence here today shows us how deeply they care about and support African and African American studies at Harvard. They have both led Harvard as champions in this field, and we're very grateful for them for doing that. And Drew, we hope you'll come back and join us again next year. I'd also like to thank the members of the National Advisory Board of the Hutchins Center who are with us here this afternoon. They are our unflagging supporters whose generosity allows the Hutchins Center to do what it does and does so well. Please stand up and be recognized. Go on, stand up, guys. So, without further ado, allow me to introduce my great friend, university professor and the founding director of the Hutchins Center, and the only person on this stage who thinks he's more famous than LL Cool J, Henry Louis Gates, Jr.
Thank you. Thanks so much. On behalf of President Drew Gilpin Faust and the chairman of our Board of Advisors, Glenn Hutchins, it's my pleasure to welcome you to the annual Hutchins Center Honors, at which we present the coveted W.E.B. Du Bois Medal for outstanding contributions to African and African American history and culture. Each of the outstanding people seated to my left is the recipient this year of the medal. Look at that group, ladies and gentlemen. Let's give it up for this astonishing array of talent. Now, in honoring them, we pay tribute to one of the 20th century's most important intellectual forces, and that, of course, is the great William Edward Burghardt Du Bois, the first black person to earn a PhD in the history of Harvard University. Du Bois gave up brilliant careers in academia to co-found an activist group, the Black Lives Matter of the early 20th century, and that, of course, at the NAACP in 1909. And he was a literary genius, whom you've heard, as Jonathan Walton quoted, a literary genius who, with sublime prescience, predicted in 1900 that, quote, the problem of the 20th century is the problem of the color line. And it turns out that Du Bois, and I just found this out this morning, that Du Bois, in the use of this metaphor, was riffing on a phrase that Frederick Douglass coined in 1884. And this is what Douglass said, and I quote, "Few evils are less accessible to the force of reason or more tenacious of life and power than a long-standing prejudice. It is a moral disorder which creates the conditions necessary to its own existence and fortifies itself by refuting all contradiction. It paints a hateful picture according to its own diseased imagination and distorts the features of the fancied original to suit the portrait. As those who believe in the visibility of ghosts can easily see them, so it is always easy to see repulsive qualities in those we despise and hate. Out of the depths of slavery has come this prejudice and this color line, unquote. I believe that both Du Bois and his great mentor, Frederick Douglass, would be shocked to learn all these years later that the color line still haunts race relations in our society as surely as do those ghosts to which Douglass alludes. I'd like to say a few words about two people on this stage who are very special to me personally and who, more importantly, have done so much to address the problem of the color line in the 21st century. The first is the president of Harvard University, Drew Gilpin Faust. Since acceding to this post in the year 2007, President Faust has devoted her energies to helping the brilliantly and often boisterously diverse members of the Harvard community find our better angels, as Abraham Lincoln famously put it. In her decade of service, President Faust has taught us how to confront Harvard's historical engagements with and considerable profits from slavery, and has committed the resources of this university to embed that history in public memory. She has exercised courage and grace in standing up for science, for dreamers, for affirmative action, for one Harvard, and indeed for a nation that is indivisibly one. That is leadership, ladies and gentlemen. And President Faust, as your tenure draws to an end, very sadly for me and for us, I want to say to you that you will be remembered as one of the truly great presidents, not only in the history of Harvard, but in the history of the American Academy. Give it up for Drew Faust. And more specifically, Drew, I want to thank you for your unflagging support of the expansion of the Department of African and African American Studies, the endowing of the Center for African Studies, about which we'll hear more later, and especially for the creation of the Hutchins Center for African and African American Research and its Ethelbert Cooper Gallery, also ardently and passionately supported by my friend, the Dean Mike Smith. The three faces of the Black experience at Harvard that combined make the university's commitment to the history and culture of Black people unrivaled in the world's academy. I'm proud to be a professor at a university where African and African American studies are at the center of a liberal education and not on the periphery somewhere. Let's give it up for Harvard's 28th president, the first woman president, Drew Gilpin Faust. Someone else who understands implicitly and explicitly the need for leadership in this field is my fishing buddy, among other things, Glenn Hutchins, chairman of the National Advisory Board of the Hutchins Center. Glenn and his brilliant wife, Debbie, who always tells me I'm not supposed to mention her, but who's that beautiful person sitting right there, and get a spotlight on her. Glenn and Debbie are the largest, listen to this, the largest single donors to African and African American studies in world history. In world history. Their philanthropy is a distinction well worth marking, because in case anyone was wondering, a single glance at headlines on any given day affirms that our field, broadly called Black Studies, is needed more urgently in this society than ever. That was an Afro-Am concentrator over there, I paid her. The Hutchins Center can only do its work because of the generosity of philanthropists like Glenn and Debbie and the members of our National Advisory Board who've been introduced already. Please give it up for my friends, Glenn and Debbie Hutchins. Benjamin Mays, the spiritual mentor to Martin Luther King, and president of Morehouse College from 1940 to 1967, said in 1954, which as you will recall, is the year of Brown v. Board, that, quote, "We are interlaced and interwoven in a garment of destiny. We are all bound together in one great humanity," Dr. Mays said. Those words were on my mind last week when I had the honor of speaking at the 60th anniversary of the integration of Central High School in Little Rock. I played the humbling role, Reverend, of the local high school band warming up the crowd for the Beatles, and the Beatles happened to be Bill Clinton. As I shared the stage with the 8 surviving members of the Little Rock Nine, who in 1957 braved the phalanx of hate and fear to walk in quiet dignity through the front door of Central High School, I realized that I wasn't seated in the auditorium of a school as much as I was worshiping at a shrine. And they, the Little Rock Nine, were the saints whom we had gathered to venerate and glorify. We find ourselves bound together in one great humanity at the intersection of history and place, be that place Little Rock, Selma, Compton, South Africa, or any other place where blacks and whites have lived together, which basically is everywhere. History is on your side, Dr. King telegrammed black leaders as he, like the rest of us, watched the events at Little Rock unfold before our very eyes on television. World opinion is with you. The moral conscience of millions of white Americans is with you. Keep struggling with this faith in the tragic midnight of anarchy and mob rule, which encompasses your city at this time, will be transformed into the glowing daybreak of freedom and justice, he wrote. Now, ladies and gentlemen, unfortunately, we find ourselves once again in a struggle for freedom and justice in this society. At this moment, unimaginable for most of us in this room just a year ago, we have to draw the line in the sand as they drew a line in Little Rock 60 years ago. Then as now, we must defend the right of every American to vote. We must at all costs defend the very affirmative action programs that launch many of the people of color and women of all colors in this room into their positions of authority and power. We must fight for health care as a basic fundamental right of people in this country. Regardless of our ideological differences, be you Republicans, Democrats, or whatever, we must link arms and stand publicly against anti-Semitism, against homophobia, against Islamophobia, against anti-black racism, and my friends, against the ugly specter of white supremacist ideology and all of its hateful force. We cannot allow forces of reaction to turn back the clock on American race relations, obliterating the heroic efforts of legions of Americans, black and white, Asian and Latino, Jewish, Muslim, and Christian, gay, straight, and trans, who risked and far too often gave their lives to make certain that the arc of the moral universe bent toward justice. Too many hands a day are trying to bend that arc back in another direction. And those of us who love truth and justice and the principles of democracy upon which this great nation of ours was founded must stand up against those forces. Let me express my hope that 50 or 100 years from now, a future Du Bois will look back on our time and say that in this era of fracture, we showed leadership, that we seized our freedom for noble ends, and that when we had the chance, we provided the inspiration for new monuments of hope on a landscape far too long dominated by memorials to a poisoned past. We must find it in ourselves to honor the leaders of our time by consecrating new shrines to new saints, our saints, wherever we do our good work. If we hold firm to our conscience and to our faith, to our shared history, and to the possibilities it secured for us, the tragic midnights of our time will be transformed, as Dr. King wrote in 1957, into the glowing daybreak of freedom and justice. Distinguished guests, the Hutchins Center Honors presents the 2017 W.E.B. Du Bois medalists. Let's celebrate their presence with us and all that they have done to speak to the problem of the color line in this, our challenging 21st century. Thank you. Thank you.
Good afternoon, everyone. Skip, you are a hard act to follow. Hi, everyone. I'm Martha Tedeschi. I'm the Elizabeth and John Morse Cabot Director of the Harvard Art Museums, and it's my honor this afternoon to speak to you regarding Kara Walker. So, much has been made of Kara Walker's recent artist statement, accompanying her current New York exhibition, whose rather lengthy title begins with a carnival barker's flair. Sycamore Jenkins and Company is compelled to present the most astounding and important painting show of the fall art show viewing season, it proclaims. It begins with a sardonic provocation, which is what we have come to expect from Walker. She writes, "I don't really feel the need to write a statement about a painting show. I know what you all expect from me, and I have complied to a point." She goes on, "But frankly, I am tired of standing up, being counted, tired of having a voice, or worse, being a role model. Tired, true, of being a featured member of my racial group or my gender niche. I roll my eyes, fold my arms, and wait. How many ways can a person say racism is the bread and butter of our American mythology?" There is more, but perhaps a look at her teaching statement is at least as instructive about Kara Walker as an artist. At the beginning of her 5-year appointment at Rutgers, she said, "If anything, I can foster an environment of openness and maybe willingness to live with contentious images and objectionable ideas, particularly in the space of art. For me, it gets us to a place where we can talk to those concerns and how, as artists, we can creatively solve problems when problems arise." When we read these two statements together, we suspect that the artist, who now may seem to be closing herself off from public view with her recent statement, is actually doing so in order to foreground her work, to let her work speak for itself. She may be tired of representing one group or another, but as an artist, she has no choice but to, in her words again, live with contentious images and objectionable ideas. And we have no choice either, which is what makes Walker so necessary as an artist. As Tariro M. Zizawa wrote in the New York Times last month amid the outcry about Kara Walker's statement, her statement is another way of saying, ignore the hot air, open your eyes and look at the work. The work is saying something strong and clear. For nearly 25 years, Walker has been a dominant figure in the art world. She became famous for her silhouettes in the 1990s when she was only in her 20s. Taking a genteel, sentimental 19th century art form and converting it into a painful and, to some viewers, blackly comic revelation of our nation's brutal history. In 2014, the artist gained still more renown with a subtlety, the gargantuan sugar sphinx installed in the defunct Domino Sugar factory in Brooklyn. Her latest work, on view in New York at this moment, which merges collage, political cartooning, and history painting, has been described by critic Roberta Smith as a brawl of works on paper. What Hilton Alls wrote in 2007 still applies, and perhaps even more vividly after Charlottesville, an event that Walker addresses head-on in her current artist statement. Alls wrote, Things are not what they seem because America is literally incredible, fantastic, a freak show that is almost impossible to watch, let alone to understand. He continued, in Walker's work, slavery is a nightmare from which no American has yet awakened. Bondage, ownership, the selling of bodies for power and cash have made twisted figures of blacks and whites alike, leaving us all scarred, hateful, hated, and diminished. It is, of course, even more rewarding to talk about Kara's work when looking at it. So let's take a moment to revisit a few critical images that suggest her range, her complexity, and her forcefulness. That is not the image I expected. In her practice, Walker has deployed a wide range of media and every imaginable scale and display strategy, from wall silhouettes, there we go, from wall silhouettes to prints, set designs, animated films, sculptures, drawings, and collage, often combining media and creating totally immersive experiences for the viewer. Nobody can remain neutral in the face of this art. So here you see a cut paper work of 1997 as installed at the Hammer Museum in Los Angeles in 2008. May I have the next slide? Here another silhouette piece combined with wall painting and framed works on paper of 2010. Next slide. Here an installation view of her monumental sugar sculpture at the Domino Sugar Refinery in Brooklyn in 2014. A project she did with Creative Time. Next. Here is Walker's design for Vincenzo Bellini's Norma at the Teatro La Fenice in Venice as part of the Venice Biennale of 2015. Next. There we go. And another monumental drawing, a triptych of 2016. And next. And finally, USA Idioms, made this year, 2017, in Sumi ink and collage on paper, on view in the current exhibition at Sycamore Jenkins in New York. I want to pause for a moment and let you get a good look at this work. It's a great pleasure to share with you tonight the news that the Harvard Art Museums are acquiring this extraordinary wall-sized drawing. Which will arrive in Cambridge directly after the closing of the exhibition in New York. It's certainly not the first work to enter the collection, and indeed Walker's work has been shown regularly at Harvard since 1998, most recently in Vision and Justice, The Art of Citizenship, at the Harvard Art Museums, which just closed earlier this year. We're now very excited and indeed honored to introduce this important new work by Kara Walker to our community, which has continued to hunger for her perspective and her art. And now, the Hutchins Center recognizes Kara Walker for making art that refuses to tell a simple story about this country's history or present. It is my honor to present the W.E.B. Du Bois Medal to Kara Walker.
Well done. Bravo, well done.
Great job.
Wow.
Bravo.
There's a medal.
That's serious.
I should award my other medal. It's a real medal. Thank you very, very much. It's a true honor, and they said we wouldn't have to speak, but I seem to have made a reputation for saying a lot on paper and not a lot out loud. I will keep that tradition alive. But I do want to thank you very much for this honor.
Good afternoon, everyone. I'm Mike Smith. I'm the Edgerly Family Dean of the Faculty of Arts and Sciences, and it's my great pleasure today to introduce and say a few words about John Thompson. As an engineer, as Skip was saying, and a computer scientist, this brings me great pleasure to do so. In his own words, John W. Thompson is just a country boy who wants to win. An icon among icons in Silicon Valley, his rise from IBM sales rep to chairman of the board of Microsoft, with a few significant stops in between, is the stuff of legend. But to hear him tell it, his formula for success has been rather simple. In a talk with his students at his alma mater, Florida A&M, he said, "At the end of the day, if you don't deliver and you don't execute, you don't get to advance." Experience talking. The son of a postal worker and a teacher, John grew up in West Palm Beach, Florida, where, in his words, the local businessmen were people that seemed to have the nicest homes and the biggest cars and all of that. And I thought, this is for me. He landed his first job as a sales rep at IBM while working at a stereo store during his senior year at Florida A&M. The interviewer didn't buy any stereo equipment from him, but he did offer him a job. From his family, he learned integrity and the value of being true to oneself and one's principles. From IBM, he learned focus and how to be a leader. When he first joined IBM, he resisted the look. And John, I wore it for you today. The blue suit, the white shirt, and the tie, because that was not who he was. But after a while, he began to understand the culture of the company. Once you get in the door, he has said, you cannot hold on to your past. You've got to look forward to the future. He has since bought himself a few suits. He is no less a competitive young man who learned patience, precision, and perseverance while hunting with his father during the earliest years in Florida. A builder of bridges between people and business, John rose through the ranks at IBM in a career that lasted nearly 28 years, ending there as general manager of IBM Americas. He left IBM to become the CEO of Symantec, and in 2012, he became the lead independent director of Microsoft and was appointed chairman of the board. And I'll remind you, a role that has only been held by Bill Gates since that company's founding in 1975. Frequently cited as one of the leading figures in Silicon Valley, John is also recognized as the highest-ranking African American in that overly white world. A distinction that says to him, and I hope to all of us, that the industry needs to do better in attracting and training a diverse workforce. In an interview with Savoy, he put it plainly: diversity is an issue for all companies. The reason tech has become the focus is that we are further behind. If we don't do a good job of solving that problem or addressing that issue, candidly, our ability to relate to customers will wane. If you don't have a diverse workforce, you don't build products or create services that meet the needs of the marketplace. There is a real driving need around what customers, individuals, and companies want. And diversity helps companies do a better job of understanding and addressing those needs. John is a person who identifies a need and finds a way to help. He and his wife Sandy have funded scholarships at Florida A&M, and his meetings with his scholarship students are said to be even more valuable than his financial gifts, exposing these students to careers they might not have considered and to a world that might not otherwise seem open to them. In a video tribute to John for the BET Honors in 2015, Emmett D. Carson CEO of Silicon Valley Communication Foundation, said of him, "John is someone that we all looked up to because he has integrity. He's thoughtful, he's smart, he's savvy. We'd all like to be John Thompson." The Hutchins Center recognizes John W. Thompson for his contributions to both the industry and the community of business and technology. It is my honor to present the W.E.B. Du Bois Medal to John W. Thompson.
Who would have thought of that?
Well, I can't thank you enough. So, as I said to the group of basketball players earlier today, Boston was the launching point for my career 10 years into my IBM experience, because I had one mentor, my first and most important mentor, right here in this town, a guy named Paul Palmer. And Paul taught me a few things. He taught me about persistence, about patience, about passion, and quite frankly, about getting along with the world at large. Were it not for that, I wouldn't be where I am today. So Glenn, Skip, I thank you very much for inviting me here. Thank you.
I'm Doug Elmendorf, the Dean of Harvard Kennedy School, and I am so honored to be sharing in this important and inspiring occasion today and to celebrate Donna Brazile. Donna Brazile had her political awakening around the age of 8 or 9 at that terrible moment when Martin Luther King was assassinated. Although she was very young at the time, she recognized at that moment what she wanted to do with her life. And in her words from last year, she wanted to work for, quote, jobs and justice for every man and woman, and a head start and a healthy start for every boy and girl. The following year, Donna Brazile worked on her first political campaign, distributing pamphlets for a city council candidate who had promised to build a playground in her neighborhood. The candidate won, and he made good on that promise. Donna Brazile's segregated neighborhood in Jefferson Parish, Louisiana, finally had a playground. That first campaign, in which hard work not only got the candidate elected, but also yielded tangible results, was certainly a sign of things to come for Donna Brazile, although she knows better than anyone the hard truth that one's candidate does not always win and that results can be more difficult to achieve than that playground was. Donna Brazile was the third of 9 children, born to a father who was a Korean War veteran who worked construction until a back injury forced him to take a job as a janitor, and to a mother who had been trained as a teacher but spent most of her time working as a domestic. She was bolstered by her parents to look past the do not cross lines of segregation and to see America's promise as belonging to her as much as to anyone else. She has written that it was the historical moment in which she was born that accounts for where she is today. Quote, "I have had the opportunity to work at the highest levels of American politics because, together with my family, my community, and my church, the Democratic Party raised me, trained me, helped me work my way to a life beyond my bravest dreams. I'm here because," in her words, "in the 3 years after my 5th birthday, a Democratic president and Congress enacted civil rights and voting rights and declared war on poverty." Donna Brazile's career is inextricably linked to partisan politics. But the motivations that have driven her most profoundly are not about one party or another, but about realizing democratic, with a small d, principles for all. Since 1984, when she worked for Jesse Jackson's presidential campaign, she has been a tireless advocate for the most basic stepping stone in our democracy, voter registration. Her belief in the power of the vote has guided her every step of the way. She has said that protest is not enough and that young people who want to participate in politics should do some of the basic work of voter registration. In her words, your political power is your leverage. When you don't vote, you give up that power. And with a little more flair, she puts it this way: if you're not at the table, you'll be on the menu. Donna Brazile has devoted her career to staking out that place at the table and to ensuring that different voices are heard around the table. From her earliest days, she has been driven by a commitment to make positive change in people's lives. The Hutchins Center recognizes Donna Brazile for her tireless commitment to amplifying voices that can too easily be drowned out and to advocating for those whose grasp on power is not yet secure. It is my honor to present the W.E.B. Du Bois Medal to Donna Brazile.
Doesn't go with your outfit. I get a hug for you.
I got a bottle of rum at the house.
Oh, brother. Thank you. Thank you.
Proud of you.
Thank you, sir. Thank you.
Congratulations.
Thank you. Thank you. I entered politics at the age of 9 as a little girl because I wanted a playground. And that road has led me here. Madam President, and God, I wish I could say that every day. This is my second opportunity to be up here at Harvard. I came here after 2001, and now I'm back in 2017. I keep working on campaigns where the candidate comes in first place, but unfortunately, Al Gore, Hillary Clinton, didn't get into the White House, but I am back here at Harvard, so thank you. But I want to say this. When I left here in 2001, I wrote a book because the students here inspired me. They inspired me to go back out and to continue to make a difference. I went back out, I registered more than 3 million more voters, and ladies and gentlemen, I'm proud to say that that led to, and I believe that was one of the reasons why we were able to elect Barack Obama in 2008 and 2012. And so, I didn't accomplish my goal last year, but now that I'm back with my godson Kai, who keeps making his noise, that's Kai, we're going to do it, ladies and gentlemen. We're going to put a woman in the White House. We're going to put a Hispanic in the White House. We're going to put an openly gay person in the White House, a Muslim in the White House. Because we have the power to do what we want to do, and we can continue to make change happen. Thank you for this great honor and award. I look forward to celebrating that day when we put forward a woman in the White House. So Abigail, remember the ladies. We're going to never forget the ladies. We're going to continue to fight. We're going to continue to register. We're not giving up. We're going to choose hope. We're going to choose action. And yes, ladies and gentlemen, in 1,127 days, we're going to have a president that cares about all the American people. Thank you, and God bless you.
Boy, I have to follow Donna Brazile. Good evening. My name is William Julius Wilson. And I have the pleasure of reading a brief excerpt from W.E.B. Du Bois's essay of our spiritual striving, published in the Souls of Black Folk in 1903. The history of the American Negro is a history of this strife, this longing to attain self-conscious manhood, to merge his double self into a better and truer self. In this merging, he wishes neither of the older selves to be lost. He would not Africanize America, for America has too much to teach the world and Africa. He would not bleach his Negro soul in a flood of white Americanism, for he knows that Negro blood has a message for the world. He simply wishes to make it possible for a man to be both a Negro and an American without being cursed and spit upon by his fellows, without having the doors of opportunity closed roughly in his face. This, then, is the end of his thriving, to be a co-worker in the kingdom of culture, to escape both death and isolation, to husband and use his best powers and his latent genius. These powers of body and mind have in the past been strangely wasted, dispersed, or forgotten. Throughout history, the powers of single black men flash here and there like falling stars and die sometimes before the world has rightly gauged their brightness. Here in America, in a few days since emancipation, the black man's hesitant and doubtful striving has often made his very strength to lose effectiveness to seem like absence of power, like weakness. And yet, it is not weakness. It is a contradiction of double aims. Thank you.
Hello, I'm Sarah Thomas, and I'm the university librarian here at Harvard, and I bet you can't imagine what a thrill it is to be introducing Carla Hayden. So Carla Hayden, you might not realize this, but she's like a rock star. and that's what they said in Baltimore when she was moving from Baltimore to become the 14th Librarian of Congress, head of the world's largest library. Carla is in the history of the 200-year-old plus Library of Congress, the first African American to hold this post. And when President Obama nominated Carla Hayden to serve at this pinnacle of knowledge and culture, she also shattered the ceiling for women, becoming the first woman to serve as Librarian of Congress. And librarians all around the globe glowed with pride because she's the first professionally trained librarian in over 60 years to serve. It's no wonder why Time has counted Carla Hayden in its special project, First Women Who Are Changing the World. The Library of Congress is a very powerful institution which serves Congress, which registers copyright, and has almost 4,000 staff as a force to open up knowledge and spark creativity. All of you, at some point in your lives, have encountered a librarian. Perhaps a children's librarian, such as Carla was in her early years. Some people, but I'm sure not you, because you're quite a hip audience, right? You might think of the stereotype of the librarian with the bun saying, shh, but you know differently. We are not just priests over the temples of books. A rock star who is frequently described as grounded and gracious, Carla Hayden often speaks about her love of books. But Carla is also spunky, and if I may say so, even feisty. She's showing the qualities of a librarian who pushes for the democratization of access to knowledge and who resists pressure to compromise the values of a right of a reader to privacy about what he or she is reading, and whose instinct to have libraries be places of healing and sanctuaries, that prevailed when she kept Baltimore's libraries open in the midst of turmoil and sadness that followed the death of Freddie Gray. As president of the American Library Association, Carla Hayden opposed provisions of the Patriot Act, which allowed the FBI to search records of books, of which books people had checked out. Dr. Hayden instead sought to promote a balance between the protection of privacy and our nation's security. And she's developed a keen sense of vision as she's brought public libraries into the digital age. Carla Hayden thinks about libraries not just in terms of the books they house, but in terms of what they can do for their communities. When she took the helm of the Enoch Pratt Free Library in Baltimore, she was determined to restore the library system to a useful and accessible environment for educators, community leaders, parents, and children. Carla's leadership has modernized physical structures and rapidly increased digitization of libraries' materials. As she advocates for the care and nurturing of libraries, she also reminds us that libraries, books, and reading are privileges not to be taken for granted. And she said that in the New York Times when she was also reflecting on her favorite book, Bright April by Marguerite de Angeli. She said, it was about a young African-American girl who was a brownie with pigtails, and that was me. That was me. It was the first book I remember where I really saw myself. I think books are so important as windows to other worlds, but they can also be mirrors for young readers to see themselves in something important like a book that makes an impression. But a good librarian makes a profound impact too. Oh, are we going to get a photo here? Okay. You can see the photo of Carla strolling the Library of Congress with Delia Arana, a 4-year-old girl who had already read 1,000 books. I think she'll have to spend a little time before she's the next Librarian of Congress, but she might be in the line of succession. So grounded, gracious, and every bit a rock star, Carla Hayden shows all of us that libraries are fundamental to our still evolving national experiment and to the advancement of social justice. The Hutchins Center recognizes Dr. Carla Hayden for leading America's libraries into the digital age of access while preserving the old-fashioned virtues of educating the public. It's my honor to present the W.E.B. Du Bois Medal to Dr. Carla Hayden.
Well done.
Thank you. Thank you.
Great job. That was beautiful.
Oh, now,
Be careful of the corner. People keep killing them.
You'll have to lend me your French.
Got an extra. Well done.
This is a wonderful honor for a person who has loved books and reading and also has been a student of African American history and research. And Dr. Gates, you are my rock star and have been. And I have to say that my grandmother used to say, well, she called me Squirrel. And as things happened, she said, I never thought being a librarian would lead to this. And now my mother's here and she's saying, wow, Mr. Cool J? Whoa. So thank you. Thank you so much. This is such an honor.
Good evening. Good evening. My name is Emmanuel Akyeampong, and I'm the Oppenheimer Faculty Director for the Center for African Studies here at Harvard. I am the second occupant of this directorship, and my fellow historian Caroline Elkins was the first. I begin with my title because it is the quickest shorthand for communicating the depth of Jennifer Oppenheimer's support for African studies at Harvard. There is, of course, so much more to say, and I'll touch here on just a few of the highlights of a brilliant life, one that ended far too soon. But her too early departure makes her accomplishments that much more astounding. A zealous supporter of educational opportunity and a lifelong learner who was committed to providing opportunities for those without, Jennifer was dedicated to civil society organizations in Southern and South Africa, her adopted homeland, including her long-time chairmanship of the De Beers Fund, the Paleological Scientific Trust, the Lee Auerberger Foundation for Exploration and the Evolutionary Studies Institute, and the Field Band Foundation, to name just a few. With Jonathan, her husband, she founded the Brenthurst Foundation, one of the world's leading forums at which statesmen and thinkers gather together to promote African economic development. To commemorate her 50th birthday, her family endowed a chair at the University of Cambridge to teach the deep history of Africa. At Harvard, her support has been instrumental in making this university truly central to the study of Africa. No one has done more. Through her, the Hutchins Center and Brother Skip have been able to bring some of the field's top scholars, both established and emerging, to Harvard. Through her, the Center for African Studies has flourished, not only here in Cambridge, but also at our new office in Johannesburg. As Susan Cook, the executive director of the Center for African Studies, wrote of Jennifer on her passing, Jennifer's ideas, support, exhortations, attention, and involvement single-handedly took the Center for African Studies from where it was 5 years ago to where it is today, a quantum leap by any measure. Respectful but provocative, Jennifer had a way of making people and institutions better versions of themselves. As a member of Harvard's Global Advisory Council, Jennifer ensured that Africa was a university-wide focal point of the institution that had launched her. She graduated magna cum laude from the college in 1989 and then from the law school in 1993. After studying in Hong Kong on a Fulbright, she worked in private practice for a brief period in New York and London before marrying Jonathan and making South Africa her permanent home. Jennifer and Jonathan have 3 beautiful children, Samuel, Nathaniel, and Isabel, who is here with us this evening. At the memorial for Jennifer held here in July, President Faust said, Jennifer Oppenheimer represented what we treasure in the students who come to us and what we hope for them in the lives they lead after Harvard. Jennifer transformed her youthful idealism into a force for good in the world, and the force that made Harvard better through her wisdom and her dedication and her generosity. Speaking of Harvard students, after Jennifer's death was announced, we received many testimonials from people who were deeply affected by the news, including this letter from a student of the college, Mfundo Radebe, an AB candidate in the class of 2020. He did not know Jennifer, but felt connected to her through interests they shared and through work that he is just embarking on. With all of the testimonials I have heard about Jennifer's effect on so many, this is certainly one of the most moving. These are Mfundo's words. On Friday, May 18th, I was at Cape Town International Airport, making my way back home to Durban. I had come from endorsing a new range of educational resources that would provide better educational access for many young children. As I reflected on this mission to expand educational access, I read of the passing of Jennifer Ward Oppenheimer. I was saddened to hear of this. I am in the class of 2020 at Harvard College, having been allowed a platform to advocate for issues pertaining to young people and education in South Africa. I feel a deep connection to Jennifer's work. Her passing has allowed me to think about how I will, or rather how we should all stand boldly as unwavering activists for the transformation of the African continent. She was in every way a believer in Mandela's vision that education is the most powerful weapon that we could use to change the world. My deepest hope is that Jennifer's grounded approach and emphasis that young Africans need to be supported, educated, and nurtured is never forgotten. That vision is not one we should embrace for the sole purpose of her memory, but because of her steadfast belief that it is how we will bring about economic development and prosperity to Africa. The Hutchins Center recognizes Jennifer Oppenheimer for her unmatched dedication to ensuring that Harvard is at home in Africa and Africa is at home at Harvard. Jennifer's medal will be received by her husband, Jonathan Oppenheimer.
I really have nothing else to say. Thank you. It's very tough, but all I can say in terms of something as important as this is that this work is never finished, and I absolutely, along with Jennifer in her memory, will commit to carry it on. Thank you.
Sikeleli Afrika, malupaganisu pundawayo, Iswahili mitandazo yetu, kosi sikelela, tina lusapolwayo, woza moya. Ofedise ditwale maswenyeho Morena boluka se shabasa Yesu Ofedise ditwale maswenyeho Oh seboluke Na seboluke Se shabasa Yesu Se shabasa South Africa.
Good evening, everyone. My name is Larry Bobo, and I have the pleasure of reading another passage from W.E.B. Du Bois. We are all, I suspect most of us are familiar with his famous 1903 essay, The Talented Tenth. I'm going to read an excerpt from his reflections on his argument some 45 years later in what's been called the Talented Tenth Memorial Address. When I came out of college into the world of work, I realized that it was quite possible that my plan of training a talented tenth might put in control and power a group of selfish, self-indulgent, well-to-do men whose basic interest in solving the Negro problem was personal freedom and unhampered enjoyment and use of the world, without any real care, or certainly no arousing care, as to what became of the mass of American Negroes, or of the mass of any people. My talented tenth, I could see, might result in a sort of interracial free-for-all, with the devil taking the hindmost and the foremost taking anything they could lay their hands on. The question is then, who can lead the way in this effort? Here comes a new idea for a talented 10th, the concept of a group leadership, not simply educated and self-sacrificing, but with a clear vision of present world conditions and dangers and conducting American Negroes to alliance with culture groups in Europe, America, Asia, and Africa, and looking toward a new world culture. We can do it. We have the ability. The only question is, have we the will? Thank you.
It's my great pleasure to speak about someone who has the will, Darren Walker. Only in America, he has written, could a black working-class kid from East Texas rise to become the president of the Ford Foundation. In this statement, we hear both Darren's faith and his clarity. Faith that this country can provide opportunity to those who have been long excluded, and clarity about the improbability of his ascent. Faith in and clarity about our not-so-United States are cornerstones of his transformative leadership of the Ford Foundation over the past 5 years. In his annual letter just last month, Darren wrote, "I have always believed that progress is cumulative, that as more people and communities win their place in the circle of American equality and opportunity, this circle will continue expanding in a virtuous cycle. This cumulative progress for both communities and individuals, this, in his words, expansion of the circle of equality and opportunity, are what he has worked for over 20 years in philanthropy. But he also has eyes wide open to the difficulties of the moment we find ourselves in today, difficulties that threaten to close that circle in ways that we thought were long behind us, but that ugly events in Charlottesville and elsewhere have shown are decidedly not. One of his favorite quotes, and mine, comes from James Baldwin. History does not refer merely to the past. History is literally present in all that we do. With an eye toward, in his words, both the history from which we emerge and the history to which we aspire, Darren has, as president of the Ford Foundation, initiated means of investing as well as areas of investment that are transforming the field of philanthropy. Earlier this year, Ford announced that it would commit $1 billion to impact investing. Shortly after that, the foundation announced the creation of the Art for Justice Fund, which will provide grants to organizations and leaders working toward reform of the criminal justice system, as well as art-related programs that explore and expose the impact of mass incarceration on people in this country. With a $100 million donation from the philanthropist Agnes Gunn, garnered from the sale of artwork in her personal collection, the Ford Foundation's Art for Justice Fund will show that art can indeed be a very powerful force for justice. Darren's leadership model is characterized as much by humility as it is by innovation. He's not afraid of self-criticism or even self-rebuke. His three guiding questions, and these are ones I think we can all keep in our hearts. His three questions are, who am I forgetting? Which of my assumptions are flawed? Which of my beliefs are misbegotten? Perhaps it is his mindfulness of the ways in which history pulls us in different directions that leads to this gift for seeing problems and their solutions from so many sides. Fast Company magazine named him one of its 100 most creative people for his willingness to see with what he has called fresh eyes and to approach the difficult and systemic challenges that face us from unexpected and sometimes risky directions. In March 2015, I had the great honor of sitting next to Darren on a bus from Montgomery to Selma to mark the 50th anniversary of Martin Luther King Jr.'s march across the Edmund Pettus Bridge. I'd been there 50 years before as a 17-year-old college freshman skipping her midterms, summoned like so many others by what seemed the absolute moral clarity of that moment. Across the aisle from us on the bus in 2015 was John Lewis, a hero of that day in 1965 and a hero of so many other days that have followed. Darren and I had the privilege of sharing our pilgrimage to Selma with Congressman Lewis as he pointed out meaningful spots along Highway 80, a road he made historic. I don't think either of us will forget. Darren wrote about that moment. All of us are not only created equal, but also should be regarded as equals and treated equally in every aspect of our lives. This is the America we want. This is the America we are all proud of. Throughout his career in philanthropy, and especially in his innovative leadership of the Ford Foundation, he is working to make that America possible for all Americans. The Hutchins Center recognizes Darren Walker for his extraordinary transformative contributions to the field of philanthropy and for his clear-eyed and hopeful vision of an American future of equality, opportunity, and integrity. It is my honor to present the W.E.B. Du Bois Medal to Darren Walker.
Thank you very much. Thank you, Drew and Skip and Glenn. I'm so grateful and so humbled by this honor, this remarkable group of honorees this evening. I feel so grateful to be in your presence. And I feel that we need occasions like this because on most days it is so easy to be dejected and demoralized and depressed by what we see. It is easy in a time when we have too little injustice and too little generosity and too much greed and avarice and mendacity. But we have hope because hope is important on occasions like this, and hope is important in a democracy. Because our greatest threat is not terrorism or a pandemic. Our greatest threat, the greatest threat to the American democracy is hopelessness. Because a society that is hopeless will do desperate things. But I am reminded of what Dr. King said in 1968 on another occasion when he was at the end of his life, and it was the year when our cities were burning, and he was being criticized from within the civil rights movement, outside by whites who saw him as becoming too radicalized. But he said on that occasion, America's house is on fire. Where are her firefighters? Well, I am hopeful tonight because the firefighters that Dr. King spoke of are in this audience, on this stage.
and we will fight. We will fight for a more just America, America that lives up to its ideals, America that delivers on its promise to its people. Thank you for this great honor. I'm humbled.
Hi, I am Diane Paulus. I am the Terry and Bradley Bloom Artistic Director of the American Repertory Theater here at Harvard University, and I am so grateful to Skip and to Glenn and the Hutchins Center for being asked to participate in this opportunity to celebrate and honor the profoundly inspiring director, Ava DuVernay. In early 2015, an Ava DuVernay Barbie doll was created by Mattel as part of a limited edition She-Heroes series. It looked like Ava DuVernay at work. The sneakers, the director's chair. So wild was the demand for this doll that Mattel mass-produced it. In December of that year, it sold out on Amazon within minutes. Ava DuVernay, in just a short time, had become something of an icon, but an icon who speaks out, who supports other artists, and most of all, who works. Ava DuVernay is the first Black woman to direct an Oscar-nominated film. Okay, there's more. She is the first Black woman to get a Golden Globe nomination for directing. And there is the first that's been grabbing all of the headlines for the past few months. She is the first Black woman to helm a film with a $100 million budget. This fall's Disney Studios' A Wrinkle in Time. And what does Ava DuVernay say about being first? When the LA Times reported this studio big budget milestone, she tweeted, "Not the first capable of doing so, not by a long shot." Those less than 140 characters capture Ava DuVernay. Though she has distinguished herself as a singular individual talent with films such as Selma and the 13th, and has broken all sorts of other barriers. For instance, her television show, Queen Sugar, which hires only female directors, another first. She never fails to look back at those who came before, whose voices and visions have been historically and intentionally shut out by a system that is, as she has said, quote, in her words, not built to support them, to nourish them, to amplify them. Amplify. Before she began directing films, Ava DuVernay was a publicist, a professional amplifier. But since co-founding her film collective, Array, she has been committed to increasing access to more films by women and people of color, and to increasing access to the platform that she so confidently and critically occupies herself as a teller of stories that haven't been told, and of histories that have been buried or twisted. It's important to note as well that she is not only committed to the philosophical or cultural importance of female and Black filmmaking, but also to the craft of it. In fact, she hosts a podcast, The Call-In, in which she asks other filmmakers of color the questions, as she says, quote, they never get asked. This shop talk fills a void, a receptacle for the knowledge held by marginalized artists. Ava DuVernay is both artist and advocate, revealing the line between art and politics to be a fiction perpetuated by those who benefit from denying the connection between the two. Featured on the cover of Time magazine's Firsts, Women Who Are Changing the World, which we heard Carla Hayden is also on, she said, quote, regarding the glass ceiling, I think there have been cracks made by women who can get close enough to hit with the weapon of their presence. But I'm mostly bolstered by folks who create their own ceilings. I'm less interested in banging down the door of some man who doesn't want me there. I'm more, she said, I am more about building my own house. It's about making sure we push against tokenism and vain attempts at diversity and push for different points of view to be centered, valued, and seen. For a moment, please allow her work to speak for itself.
Together, we believe that what the illusion of supremacy has destroyed, the truth of equality can nourish. Thank you.
Hold your applause, until I say it's a picture wrap on David Oyelowo and Carmen Ejogo.
I've never seen anyone with such intense, passionate, willful, and clear direction, and yet be such a calming force as well.
White, black, and otherwise. Come to Selma.
I heard about the attack of innocent people. I couldn't just stand by.
Looks like an army out there.
This revolution goes on and on. This revolution goes on and on. Mine eyes have seen the glory, glory, glory. Hallelujah.
Once she hooks you, she doesn't let you go. These characters don't let you go.
She wants her audiences to step inside someone else's life, inside their mind, and to therefore be changed.
Few directors capture the beauty of us as Black people like Ava.
It's time to focus on the family.
Sweet dreams are made of this.
She has a real consciousness about the kind of messages and energy she wants to put out into the world.
He's trapped by a darkness that's actively spreading throughout the universe. And the only one who can stop it is you. Be a warrior.
I'll try.
Sweet dreams are made of this. When I
You're going to be tested every step of the way. Trust nothing.
Darling, time for dinner. Are you lost?
The only thing faster than light darkness.
1 out of 4 human beings with their hands on bars, shackled, in the world are locked up here in the land of the free.
Some people got the real problem.
Animals, beasts that needed to be controlled. You better believe it.
You should go looking somewhere higher.
Okay, wait. The Hutchins Center recognizes Ava DuVernay for transforming the film industry and the film community through both her craft and her advocacy. It is my honor to present the W.E.B. Du Bois Medal to Ava DuVernay.
Okay. I'll hold up the locks for him. Thank you. Thank you very much. Thank you. Wow. Thank you so much for the warm welcome. And I just have to say, it's not easy to introduce someone, and almost made me shed a tear. Thank you for taking the time and the care with that introduction. I really appreciate it very much. I'm experiencing a feeling today, a feeling of joy, a very singular joy that it's a unique kind of joy that you experience when you find yourself somewhere entirely unexpected. Entirely unexpected. There was no path that I ever envisioned that would have me standing here at Harvard, a girl from Compton who never went to film school. And I'm thrilled to be here, to be receiving this recognition for my work, and to be side by side with such stunning, stunning people. So I want to thank Dr. Gates and Madam President and Brother Hutchins. Thank you so much for your, where you get the brother insignia, if that's the appropriate word, the title. But also these beautiful people on the stage. I've enjoyed learning about them. Kara Walker's work stirs my blood. When I hear of John's accomplishments, I'm ashamed that I did not know the intricacies of his bio, and I am pleased and honored and grateful for all that you've done in the corporate world. I think it's something that we as artists don't applaud hardly enough, our brothers and sisters inside corporations and organizations around the country, so thank you for that. Donna Brazile, who's boldly gone where few black women have gone before. Thank you for going there for us. Carla is truly a rock star. My sister, Gina DuVernay, who I will name, is a librarian. I've heard this librarian spiel before. They are special people, and they are really kind of cool. My sister actually has a picture of Carla in her office. I know all about Carla, and I just want to thank you for inspiring my sister, Gina, very much. Darren Walker, who, I just have to tell the story, Darren, I'm sorry. Darren, I got a call out of the blue from a man named Darren. They said, Darren's on the phone. I said, I know a lot of Darrens. I don't know who Darren Walker is. Didn't know him. He called me out of the blue and said, sister, I hear that you're doing this work called Array, where you are amplifying films by women and people of color. I said, yes, through volunteers, we distribute films by hand with the money that I make from my filmmaking. He said, well, why don't you apply for grants? Like, why don't you get into this whole grant thing? I said, yeah, you got to be a nonprofit for that. He's like, yeah, why don't you become a nonprofit? I said, yeah, I don't know how to do that. I don't have time. I'll just work and then put the money into it. He said, no, let's work on this. So he actually gave me a grant that, to become a nonprofit so I can get more grants. And it's really transformed the work that we do with Array. And a shout out to our executive director, Telaine Jones, who holds that down. Thank you for being here. And finally, and I'll just briefly touch on the fact that I had a very, very special relationship with LL Cool J in my teens. He didn't know it, but he wasn't aware, but that's how it goes sometimes. I Need Love was my anthem, continues to be. Thank you for your truly, truly great contributions to the art of hip hop and American music. So with that, I'll just say I'll keep this image. All of you in the dark, I kind of see some silhouettes, you know. If I was directing the scene, I'd put a little more fill here, have a crane shot sweep over, but we don't have that time. I'd have a nice steady cam going across all of the faces here, but I'll have to keep the image in my memory. Images they live far beyond the moment that we consume them. They live in our bloodstream, they live in our memories, we pass them on. Images affect the way we see ourselves, but also the way that we are seen. We have to protect them, we have to uphold them. I'll remember this image long after today. I'll take it with me, and I thank you for this feeling. Thank you very much.
Okay, first of all, I want to say I love my job. So LL Cool J at Harvard? This is not the first time. In 2014, he was honored by the Harvard Foundation as Artist of the Year as part of the annual Cultural Rhythms Festival in recognition of both his preeminence as an artist and his dedication as a philanthropist. In 2016, he was one of the star pupils in Professor Anita Elbersay's Business of Entertainment, Media, and Sports class in Harvard's Business School's Executive Education program. Both times, he left a written record that shows us very much what he's about and who he is. At Harvard Business School, he tweeted a photo of himself sitting at a desk, hand raised high with the caption, "You're never too cool to learn." In the Marshal's office during the Cultural Rhythms Festival, signing Harvard's historic guest book, he wrote a list above his signature: dream, faith, determination, creativity, willpower, focus, hard work, joy, adventure, execution. The list of words read like an index of what hip hop is and how for more than 30 years, LL Cool J has been at the top and an inspiration. His creativity and talent recognize no limitations. MC, actor, entrepreneur, philanthropist, he excels in all. He lives by an adage from his grandmother. Yes, the same grandmother who inspired Mama Said, "Knock you out." And the quote is, if a task is once begun, never leave it till it's done. Be thy labor great or small, do it well or not at all. Okay. One of hip-hop's first major solo stars, LL Cool J was born James Todd Smith in St. Albans, Queens. From the beginning, he aimed high. Quote, "There hasn't been a rap star yet, just rappers," he said when he was already on the rise at age 19. He was the first rap artist to accumulate 10 consecutive Platinum Plus selling albums and is a two-time Grammy Award winner and two-time NAACP Image Award winner. Additionally, he has hosted the Grammy 3 times. With that hosting gig, his starring role on NCIS Los Angeles and hosting Spike TV's Lip Sync Battle, and most recently, his being the first hip hop artist to be recognized by the Kennedy Center Honors. LL Cool J occupies a rare position in hip hop. He's become a popular figure in the American mainstream who nevertheless retains his credibility, integrity, and identity in hip hop. His jump, for example, his jump and ball tournament in Queens just celebrated its 13th anniversary. Founded in 2005, LL developed this program as an opportunity for kids in the community of Southeast Queens, not only to learn basketball skills, but also to develop the team building and leadership skills that are essential off the court. He is also active with the organization Jumpstart, which sponsors early education programs in low-income and under-resourced neighborhoods with the goal of increasing school readiness and reducing the achievement gap. LL Cool J's career spans the rise of hip-hop as the lingua franca of youth the world over. At the Hip Hop Archive and Institute, we are committed, at the Hip Hop Archive Research Institute, we are committed to documenting both the rise and the vitality of hip-hop, not only as an art form, but as a tool for education. With that in mind, I would like to announce that LL Cool J is one of the latest inductees into the Classic Crates project of Archive of Hip Hop Music in collaboration with the Loeb Music Library. One of the things that we haven't talked about in terms of LL Cool J is that he is a teacher. Not in the sense of be like me, and then you can speak, look at me, and then you will achieve, but more like let me show you and tell you what you may want to know. Do you want to know it? He teaches by example. He is open and ready to work with his community and to watch hip hop and young people grow. His main, if we think about him in terms of a teacher, it's really important to recognize that doing the work, showing that you are willing to do the work, letting people see the process is a way of saying to them, look, I'm doing it, I'm a regular person, you can do it. It's also a way to say to those people who have low expectations, I intend to drive you crazy. You will never look at me and be able to tell what I will and won't do or can't do. This man will drive you crazy. He does it in such a way, that you don't even see it coming, so don't have low expectations. Those of you who might have had it, okay? But the other thing I want to say is that this is the person who said to us, I need love. As a hip hop artist to have said that, it drove all of us crazy. For him, yes, and also, I think it's pretty clear, but also with that, it wasn't only I need love, it was, and I'm going to show respect, I'm going to love my family, I'm going to love my children and do everything, all of that. He makes his own, he plays and makes his own rules. And because of that, we are here today to celebrate LL Cool J. The Hutchins Center recognizes LL Cool J for the pioneering work he has done in hip hop in business, and in the world of arts, and for his commitment to giving back to the community that made him who he is today. It is my great honor to present the W.E.B. Du Bois Medal to LL Cool J.
Great job.
Thank you. Thank you so much. This is amazing. I'd like to thank the faculty, staff, students, Madam President, of course, Starsky and Hutch. I appreciate you very much. And Dr. Gates, who has become a very special person in my life, reunited my mother with her biological mother on his show, Finding Your Roots. So that was, you know, he's near and dear to me, and I really appreciate you having me. And I'd just like to make a few comments. I don't want to drag it out. I'd say, you know, the interesting thing when I was sitting here is, first of all, I was going crazy about so many things, but the library thing, I mean, I love the movies, I love everything everybody does, but that library thing, see, because what you don't know about me, my kids will tell you, some of my kids are here, they would tell you that, like, all I like to do is read. That's like my dirty little secret. Like, I'm like a closet nerd. And when I say read, I'm talking about everything from, you know, history to Peloponnesian Wars to Souls of Black Folk, all right? So, you know, when I think about this university, when I think about, you know, these hallowed halls that we're in, it really kind of inspires me to want to do more, to learn more, to be more, but it kind of tells me that you truly can do anything you put your mind to. You really, really can. I think, you know, with everything that's going on in the world, people are getting a little distracted. People are feeling a little uncomfortable. And I wrote something. Can I have my phone right there? I put something on Instagram. Ava, could you? I got a medal here, the director. That's funny. Lord have mercy. Yeah. So, I wrote this the other day and I put it on Instagram, and I just thought after hearing everyone talk, this would be something that I could share. We're having some tough times, and I know some of you are afraid. I know some of you are nervous. It's understandable. We are being tested. Our intestinal fortitude is being tried. But world, we have been here before. We've seen the unimaginable happen and come out of it better and stronger. Don't get discouraged. Don't allow your personal frustrations to boil over and ruin the whole kitchen. Don't throw the baby, love, out with the bathwater, fear and mistrust. This experiment called humanity can and will work if we stay grounded in faith, tempered by reason, and bolstered by action. We must resist the temptation to live in fear. We can't cower in the corner and hide from unknown potential dangers, whether real or imagined. We must continue to live, dream, and faithfully pursue our highest ideals. At the same time, we must not be intimidated by the realities we face. The tragedies and horrors and storms that are thrown at us daily. We must stand up. The rich cannot ignore the less fortunate while in pursuit of their dreams. The less fortunate cannot give up on their humanity and hope while in pursuit of a richer life. We need each other. We must stay unified. Ethnicity, gender, religion, sexual preference, etc., are mere distractions. The true and living universal creator has his hand on us all. It begins and ends with love. We must have the courage to rise above our most selfish and base inclinations. That hidden thing, that impulse to defend only one group of people, to see only one group as worthy of reverence. We have to see the collective as worthy of happiness, love, abundance, and prosperity. Basically, what I'm saying is, hold up your head. You cannot let the depraved actions of a few demoralize and destroy the spirits of the many. I'm giving the whole world a hug. All right, I'm giving it. A hug filled with encouragement, trust, and wisdom. Stay strong, fear not, stay faith-filled. Better days are coming. Thank you.
To all of you who have come here this afternoon, we thank you. To members of the Harvard community, to the larger greater Cambridge, Boston area, to wonderful high school students that we have here with us today from the Fessenden School. And from our local high school from Cambridge Ridge and Latin. So on behalf of President Drew Gilpin Faust, our dear brother Glenn Hutchins, Professor Henry Louis Gates Jr., and all of these incredible honorees, we say thank you. And we thank God for you. Listen, as we leave this place, but never leaving this spirit and presence of creativity and artistry and black beauty and brilliance behind. I just want to leave you with these words. Life is short. Time is filled with swift transition. So we don't have much time to gladden the hearts of those who walk this journey with us. So be swift to love. Make haste to be kind. Be quick to compliment. and slow to criticize. And if you do so constructively. Walk in the truth and love yourself. For loving yourself is a precondition for loving your neighbor. And if we do these things, despite the pains, problems, perils, and perplexities that we face as a society, we might begin to approximate what it means for us to do justice, to love mercy, and to walk humbly before our God. Please, my friend, once again, the 2017 Du Bois Medal winners, stand to your feet and show your love. And as we prepare to leave, please once again receive Sheldon Reed and the Kuumba Singers of Harvard College.
Thank you, Jonathan.
Right on, King Jesus, no man can hinder thee. Right on, King Jesus, right on, no man can hinder thee. No man can hinder thee. Right on, King Jesus, no man can hinder thee. Right on, King Jesus, right on, no man can hinder thee. No man can hinder thee. No man can hinder thee. No man can hinder. In that great getting up morning, fare thee well, fare thee well. In that great getting up morning, fare thee well, fare thee well. In that great getting up morning, fare thee well, fare thee well. In that great getting up morning, fare thee well, fare thee well. No man can hinder thee. 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 Ooh. One of these mornings and it won't be long. No man can hinder thee. You're gonna look for me and I'll be gone. No man can hinder thee. Going to glory for to sing and shout. No man can hinder thee. There won't be nobody there to put me out. No man can hinder thee. 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 No man can hinder. In the beautiful city, fare thee well, fare thee well. In the beautiful city, fare thee well, fare thee well. In the beautiful city, fare thee well, fare thee well. In the beautiful city, fare thee well, fare thee well. No man
That concludes our ceremony, ladies and gentlemen. Give it up one more time for the Du Bois medalist.